The most common question I get asked is, how did you get so good look? That's a massive lie. It's, Jack, I'm skinny fat. What can I do? And that is exactly what I'm going to break down in this video. But I'm not going to spoon feed you and tell you exactly what you're going to do. I am going to do that, but I'm going to do that later on in the video. I'm going to tell you why you're doing certain things and how it is actually going to help you, as well as giving you the practical steps going forward to help you out to fix the skinny fat problem. It's like that famous saying, I'm definitely going to get this wrong. Give a man a fish, you've given him a meal. Teach a man how to fish, and you've sorted him for life. That is definitely wrong. But it's something like that. If you teach someone how to do something, they can do it a lot more often, basically. So the first thing that we need to look into is, what is skinny fat? Because you probably hear the word skinny fat and think, how is that even possible? How can you be skinny and fat at the exact same time? Like, how is that even possible? So what this basically is, it's the most frustrating phase that anyone can kind of be in. It's where someone has little to no real muscle mass, but they've got a little bit of fat. And the main reason why it's so hard to get out of being skinny fat is because no one really knows what to do. Like, they're thinking in their head, should I bulk up? Should I lose fat? And then someone came to this idea of losing fat and building muscle at the exact same time. In theory, sounds unbelievable. Like, why would anyone not want to? What's the point of bulking? What's the point of cutting when you can just do both at the exact same time? But what ends up happening is they end up overthinking everything, going, I don't know what to do, and they end up in the exact same spot because they've just decided, it's just too complicated. The fitness industry is completely mental, and there's no real point looking into it. And I get that, because I look at some of the stuff nowadays, being in the fitness industry for 5-6 years, and I look at some of the stuff and go, that's confusing me. And I've been doing it for 5 years, and I know what works and what doesn't work. So that's why in this video, I'm going to completely simple it down for you and actually give you, my opinion on it, because there's no point in me just relaying stuff and just relaying the same information. I'm going to use what worked for me, and I'm going to use what has worked for the people that I've coached at the same time. So the first thing you need to determine is, are you skinny fat or are you just skinny? I think a lot of people are just skinny and they need to actually just go on a bulk. And what I mean by this is, they don't have a lot of body fat, but they just need more muscle, and they're going to look a lot better. Their body composition doesn't look good because they've got a lack of muscle. Their metabolism is really, really slow because of the lack of muscle. They're not burning many calories because they haven't got muscle. And some people just need to bulk, because if you are just skinny, you just need to go into the gym and actually just train. In my opinion, when you're first starting off, your diet isn't going to be the main cause of concern, especially if you're skinny or if you're skinny fat. But if you are just skinny, making sure you're eating more food, that's going to be your main priority. 100 to 200 calorie surplus. But if you don't fit that criteria, you have that little bit of body fat that you are uncomfortable with, and you are skinny and you don't really know what to do, then this is exactly what you're going to do. I'm going to break it down into 2 areas. We're going to go with the training, and then we're going to break down the nutrition. So in my opinion, training is the most important one. That's where you're going to provide the stimulus for you then to grow. And if you don't have a stimulus, then the food that you are eating, more of that is going to turn into body fat, because you are actually putting your body under enough stimulus for it to grow. So the first thing you need to look into, instead of just looking into the most optimal exercise, the most optimal kind of ways of doing things, just follow a consistent routine. Pick a split that fits your schedule. Pick a split that you enjoy and it fits your lifestyle. That could be 3 full body sessions throughout the week. That could be a push-pull legs. That could be upper, lower, upper. It doesn't need to be that overcomplicated, as long as you're hitting your main muscle groups 2 times per week. And then once you have your split, your main focus is to just get stronger on them key lifts. Every single time that you go into the gym, you want to go in, train hard. You want to go in, do an extra rep than you did last week. You want to go in, add a little bit of weight on top of what you were doing last week. It's really not that complicated. Progressive overload is very, very simple. You pick a rep range, say 8 to 12, you get to the top of the rep range with that weight, then you then up the weight, then each week you're going in, right? You got 8 last week, right? You're going to go 9, and then next week you're going to go 10, and you go in, and over time, you're stacking on weight, you're stacking on reps on top of each other, and you're getting stronger. This is going to push your body to grow, and that's what's going to build the muscle. So you want to be consistent with your training. And when you are skinny fat, when you are first getting into the gym, getting strong on your main core compound lifts are going to be massive. Like a pressing movement, like a dumbbell bench press or an incline bench press, any sort of press you're looking for, getting strong on them. A squat or a split squat movement, a hinge movement like an RDL or a deadlift. You may also want to throw in a shoulder press, a pulling movement, a lat pull down, a row, and they are going to make up the bulk of your exercises. And then you fill up the other 50% with the likes of your accessories, the likes of your bicep curls, tricep push downs, your lateral raises. That's when you fill out them. So an example upper body day is you do 4 to 5 exercises where you do your bench press or your incline press, your overhead press, and then you would pick 2 or 3 isolations. You'd maybe pick an incline curl, a face pull, and a tricep push down or a lateral raise. Doing 2 to 3 sets per muscle group. Getting to the point where you look like you're about to shit yourself doing the rep. But when you're first starting off, just going in there and picking up a weight, you're going to put on size, especially in the first year or so of lifting. If you are someone that is very, very new to the gym or someone that's coming back to the gym, you're primed to be putting on muscle. So just going back into the gym and being consistent with the gym 3 days a week, you are going to put on muscle. And that is the most important thing with the training. And then when it comes to the nutrition, you've got 3 options. You either bulk, cut, or you do both at the same time and you do what is called a recomp. So instead of me just kind of going, oh, you can do anything that you want, you can go and pick one and just kind of go for that. And if it works for you, then that's absolutely perfect. I'm actually going to give my opinion on what has actually worked for me in the past and one that uses this thing called logic. So the first one, it's going to be bulk. I would completely stay away from that. If you are someone that is skinny fat, then you already have body fat on top of you. And the chances are, if you are skinny fat, you're not particularly happy with the body fat that you've got there anyway. So risking that by adding more calories in and eating more food, in my opinion, is a recipe for disaster. And that would be something that you need to do when you drop down. If you don't care about the body fat that you have, then you can go for a bulk. But if you don't care about adding more body fat in, I think that's kind of weird and not caring about your appearance. I know people that have done 2-year bulks and then they do look a lot better. They look really, really good. I wouldn't agree with it. I don't think it's worth going through that pain in the short term, especially coming from a guy that was skinny fat, then went on a bulk and then got fat. It's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. A lot slower to put on muscle and gain muscle than it is to lose fat. So you're not really going to see the benefits of it until a few years down the line. If you're going to be that patient, then fair play to you, but that isn't something that I would do. And the next one is going to be a recomp where you try and do both at the exact same time, where you lose fat and build muscle at the exact same time. Now, this one could be a good option for you if you are someone that is a little bit more patient, because this will take a little bit more time. This will only really get you so far. You can't just lose fat and build muscle to your dream physique. At some point, you are going to have to either go into a bulking phase or go into a cutting phase. It is a good short-term kind of thing to do, especially around 6 to 8 weeks is how long I would really do it for, where you're in a smaller kind of deficit and you're making sure you're hitting your protein to then lose fat, build muscle at the exact same time. I would use it as more of a building momentum kind of phase where you build habits, you stack habits, and you build that momentum to then go into either a gaining phase or you go into an actual proper cutting phase, which leads me perfectly onto the option that I do with a lot of people is I then cut them. And the main reason for this is many people would say, why are you cutting them when they haven't got muscle? The chances are, if you're in a 500 calorie deficit, you still can put on a little bit of size. The main focus when someone is skinny fat is they don't have drive, they don't have motivation, they don't really see many results coming through. If you then cut them down, the results are a lot quicker. You can cut down for 12 weeks, get the outline of abs, and they start to get that motivation, they start to get that drive for the gym. You are still training at this point, so you might be able to see a little bit of progress in terms of muscle being built, but they get that kind of first initial kind of excitement for the gym, the excitement for progress. And then once you get past that phase, that's when you can reverse your way back up and then go into a gaining phase. So it's really dependent on where you're at. You could get to the end of your recomp phase and go, oh, I've done 8 weeks. I've built a little bit of muscle. I've lost a little bit of fat, and then go into a proper fat loss phase for 12 weeks and then get yourself lean. And then once you're in a leaner starting position, then you can go into that gaining phase for a lot longer. But you could end the cut and go, right, I need to go back up into a gaining phase, and then you can go in for a gaining phase for 8 to 12 months, sitting in around maintenance to just above maintenance if you need to. 100 calories above maintenance is the maximum that I would go. Now, when it comes to the food that you're eating, I'd be aiming for 80% single ingredient foods and 20% coming from wherever you like, really. Setting it up, you're looking for 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So if you're 200 pounds, for example, you're aiming for around 160 grams of protein. People overshoot how much protein they actually need. Yes, protein's important. It's the most satiating macronutrient. It isn't the most important thing once you get past a certain level. So once you get past 160, you're much better off having carbs and fats making up the majority of your calories as opposed to just hammering protein, because carbs and fats are going to be a lot better for hormone regulation, and they're going to be a lot better for performance in the gym and testosterone as well. Focusing on 80% of that coming out from whole single ingredient foods, the likes of your eggs, the likes of your red meat, really focusing on your micronutrients and making sure you get your micronutrients in, so it allows for a little bit of sustainability with the likes of your other foods that you can maybe add in there as well. Because the main important thing with your diet, with your nutrition, is sustainability. If you go too strict and you go too kind of harsh with it, this works for some people, for a lot of people, it doesn't really work too well, and they need a little bit of sustainability. And especially if you're doing this for 3 months, go in and get yourself out and not be in a fat loss phase forever. And if you're constantly restarting fat loss phases because you go too aggressive, because you restrict yourself too much, then it's going to take a lot longer. What you want to do is make the deficit fun, eat foods that are going to be enjoyable, as well as foods that are going to fill you, as having the likes of potatoes, the likes of Greek yogurt, the likes of fruit that has fiber in it as well. These things in here are going to be amazing for you. You're looking for an even split, 40% carb, 30% protein and 30% fat. Get a moderate split of all 3 of the macros. And the way you want to work out your calories is take your body weight, times it by 15. And if you're looking to recomp, then you want to take off 200 calories off that number. But if you are looking for a more of aggressive fat loss, aiming for 400 to 500, just take 400 to 500 calories off that number and eat at them calories. Like I said, nutrition isn't the main focus. I do want to really reiterate how important the training side of things when you're in this position are, because you need to build the muscle to have that foundation there in the first place. And then you can then pick and choose what you then want to do off that, whether you want to go into a gaining phase or you want to go into a kind of a cut and make your decision based off that. But yes, hopefully you found that video useful, and I've given you the kind of blueprint and giving you the kind of things you need to focus on to actually build a decent physique. Hope you have an absolute belter of a day. If you are new here, please please click subscribe. It really, really does help. And I'll speak to you in the next one. Have a good one.